Hey everybody, Lars here. Time for the last video for Big Bad Scary Unit 3. I don't think I need my glasses. I just got my contacts switched out. My optometrist gave me these bifocal contact lenses where your eye knows to look through different parts of it for the close-up parts and the distance and blah, blah, blah. Ugh, I hated them. They were blurry all the time and they were crappy. So I just said, let me go back to my old prescription because I'm nearsighted. So I need this I like the clarity. So I wear them all day long. And things are like the world is back to normal for me. But to read close up during the day, I do wear my reading glasses. So I look like some demented Santa Claus. You wonder what Santa looked like when he was 48 years old? This is it right here. All right, I digress. We are going to do two things tonight. One, we're going to really quick look at some library stuff about importing functions from the standard library and using them in our programs. And after that, I am actually going to do a homework assignment of my very own. And this homework assignment is eerily similar to a homework assignment that you are going to get over the weekend. Actually, I'm shooting this on Friday night. It is gorgeous outside right now. It is. Hey, Alexa, tell me about the weather.
Right now in Metuchen, it's 63 degrees with clear skies.
Can you?
Tonight's forecast has clouds with a low of 51 degrees.
63 degrees. It's 9:15 at night. 63 degrees out. It's like spring. It's like summer. It's dark out. It's 63 degrees. It's very bizarre. And it's Metuchen, not Metuchen. I don't know why Alexa insists on pronouncing things incorrectly. Again, I digress. Time to do some Python. All right, I already whipped up. Well, I didn't whip up any code, but I set up some shells for us. So let's get right to it. First thing I'm going to do is let's create a list. My list equals, you know what? I could actually use these glasses. Oh, that's a little clearer. My list, and let's get some numbers in there. Doesn't really matter which ones. And now we're going to say A equals sum of my list. Parens, of course we do. And then I'm going to print A. So let's save that code and run it. What do we get? We get 303. Okay, I have no idea if that's correct, but I'm going to believe it. Let's get set up so we can see what we are doing. Okay, all right, so I created a list, and I used the built-in function sum to get the sum of my list. I put the value in a variable called A, and I printed A. Boom, we got 303, okay? Now, what if I wanted to find out the square root of that sum, okay? Somewhere I heard that there is a function called square root. So I'm going to say square root of A. Give me the square root of A, call it B, and I'm going to print B now. And I should be in good shape, right? Okay, let's save it and figure it out. But I got an error because square root is not defined. Sum is a built-in function. It gets loaded when we start Python, and it's always there for us to use. Square root, while it was familiar, and I think I do have a square root somewhere, is not a built-in function. Okay? It resides in the math library. So what do I want to do? Because I'm a Python programmer that knows about the math library, I want to use the keyword import. Lovely idle makes it orange. See? And then I'm going to name the library I want, and I'm going to call it math. Okay? So I just say I want to import from the math library. Then I come down here, but there's still something I need to do. I need to tell the program where to go to get the square root function. So I'm importing from the math library, and I'm saying, hey, B, when you have that, go to the math library to get it. Okay? So now, when I run my code, I get an answer. I got 17.4068, whatever. Well, that's kind of messy. So why don't we use another? I'm going to say C equals math dot floor of B. And then I'm going to print C. What do we get? It's just 17. Floor is another function in the math library. And because I imported math up here, I could just call another function. Okay? I could also, if I wanted, say D equals math dot ceiling. I think it's seal. Okay, I still want to use B. And then I'll print C, and then right after it D. So 17 and 18, because floor goes down, ceiling goes up. Okay. Now, math, of course, isn't the only library in town. I can also load the statistics library, and I can say that E equals the mean of my list, because it is an iterable. Now, will that work? No, it will not, for the same reason that math would not work. We need to put the library in front, and then I'm going to print E, and I should be in Fancy. Okay, see? Now, there's just one more thing I'm going to show. Well, there's a couple more things I'm going to show you. I can also do this. I could say from math import square root, floor, seal, and from statistics import mean. Okay, so if I do my import that way, if I start from a from, and I give the library name, and then I say import, and then I do the different functions, let's see what we get. Oh, it blows up. Why did it blow up? Square root, the name math is not defined. Huh? What's going on now? Okay. What I did with this from statement basically is I mapped these functions to that library. So I no longer want to have math in front. Now I can just use them by their natural names. Okay? Because I basically mapped it up here so Python knows if it sees square root, put math in front of it. If it sees mean, put statistics in front of it. So now we don't have to do any of that. And if I rerun, now I'm good again. Okay? So if you want to just use the name of the functions and not put the library name in front of it, you can go ahead and do that by using a from import. But I'm going to be honest with you. I like it the other way. I like saying import. Whoop, bip, bop, bip, bip, boop, boop. I'm going to say import math, comma, statistics. And I'm going to go back to the way we were, said Barbara Streisand. Math dot square root, math dot ceiling, statistics dot mean. And when I rerun, because this is the code you're going to get, what happened there? There we go. Okay. So everything went fine. All right. This is the reason I like doing it that way. I've written a big program. Let's say it's 100 lines, maybe 150 lines. Down near the bottom of the program, all of a sudden, I have a function call, and the name isn't defined. I don't know if it came from a library. I don't know if... Now, this is somebody else who's reading my code. If I create a program that's long, and at the bottom of it, I refer to a function, well, the person reading my code doesn't know if it's a homegrown function, if I'm reading it from a library, if I do it from other things. If I leave it like this, if it says math.square root, math.floor, statistics.mean, then I'm telling the person reading the code, hey, go to the statistics library. That's where this stuff is. I'm getting floor and ceiling from the math library. Go and do that, yeah? Okay, so I kind of like doing it that way. Yeah, it's a little extra typing, but who cares? For old school purposes and because it's Python and you want things to be readable, I mean, that's part of the appeal of Python is that it's, the code is a lot more readable than a lot of other languages. You can tell people what library you're getting stuff from. So I like just using the import. That said, you hand in your program and I see from whatever, import this, I don't have a problem with it. You guys, you're going to develop your own coding styles as you program more and more and more. And however you want to do it, you can do it. I mean, you always have the option, if you want to do it the other way, of just saying, putting a comment in there and just saying from statistics library, and you can tell your users that way. Somebody who reads your code later on can figure it out that way. There's no one way to write programs. So we just, as instructor's teaching programming, I want you to know all the different ways of doing things. Then I'll tell you the way I do it, and I'll tell you why I do it my way, but you don't have to do it that way, okay? Well, as long as you get the correct answers. You don't have to do it my way, all right? One more thing I'm going to show you, actually two more things I'm going to show you, I think. I'm going to jump out here to the web, and I'm going to say Python docs, and I overview Python documentation, and I am going to type in standard library. How could standard library not come up? Thank you. A brief tour of the standard library. And you can see that the standard, you can get a tour of the standard library and learn about all of the different libraries in Python. The Python standard library is the page I usually go to, and this will show you all of the different libraries. We just looked at, where are you? We just looked at math. So you can click on this, go to the math library, and read about all the math functions. There's ceiling, our friend ceiling. There's floor, we used floor. If I go all the way down here, where are you? Square root is right down there, okay? And like I had math, I can also grab statistics, and we can look at the statistics library and see all of the different functions that we can use for statistics. So if you come here to this page and look at the Python standard library, look at all of the code that is here waiting for you to use. Now that you know about data and functions and ways to write Python code, look at what's all here for you. All of this has been pre-written. All of this is waiting for you. Text processing stuff, data type stuff that deals with date, different collections. You'll learn what that is. It's just a data structure. You got no problems. Math libraries, file and directory access, data persistence, file formats, cryptography, operating system stuff. I mean, it goes on and on. Email, internet data handling, scraping the web, blah, 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 blabbity blah, graphical user interface stuff, TK Inter, if you know what that is, all here for you. So basically you hit the Python standard library and you start reading and you'll be amazed. Okay, this is the instruction manual. You're learning the very basics when you learn all the commands, when you learn about iteration and functions and data and if then and all that stuff. Then all of a sudden you get to this and then you're like, wow, now I really have some tools to build with. Now I can really build those programs I want to make and I want to do. Okay, now there's another thing I want to show you that is pretty cool. If you, and there's my unit 3, we're going to get back to that in a minute. If you know where on your computer you store your Python, and I do because I always put mine at the top. I call this Python 34 for 3.4. And you go to your base Python installation directory, and you go to the capital LIB directory, okay? And you scroll down a little bit. See all these files down here? These are the library files. And we can go down here to S, and you can see statistics. I double click on it. Look at this. It's coming up in Notepad, but that's the statistics module. Okay. See how they're using 3 for marking off comments. And then there's all the code. So if you want to go see how mean is written, you can go check it out. Okay. Now, some of it's going to be a little confusing to you right now, but trust me, after you've programmed for a little while, you can read all of this. You'll know exactly what all of this stuff is doing. Say now, now we're using regular hashes for the comments. Def, you know what that is. This is just defining a function. Okay. Then there's a little comment. Then there's an if statement, an assignment, more comments. There's a counter, as you know. Maybe someday we'll tell you what assertions are. This is it right there. Okay. Now, one thing I am going to tell you, because somebody will probably ask if I don't, and I think I already explained it to Samira. I'm tooling around in this directory. I'm like, hey, this is great. Yeah, okay, where's the math library? Let's see. M-A-T. Huh? There is no math.py in the library. Math is one of what we call in the standard library a special built-in library. It's not like a built-in function where it's available for you when you start running, but it's what's called a built-in library because technically the math library in Python is the same as the math library for the C programming language. Little behind the scenes. When Guido von Rossum wrote Python in the late 90s, it's really what we call a wrapper, or something that works around the C programming language, where everything you do is executed by Python. In the background, it's using the C programming language. So it was proper to rewrite all of these different libraries that you're looking at to do things in a Pythonic way. But when it came to the math libraries, it was just simpler to create some custom code that said, hey, when I asked for floor, let me use the floor that's in C. Hey, when I asked for ceiling, let me go use the ceiling that's in C already. It just became easier to do it that way. So you're not going to see the math library in this directory, but you will see most of the other directories that you bring in. Okay? That's just a little, don't let that make your head hurt. That's just a little behind the scenes. Later, if you want, you can go to Wikipedia. You get to read all the history of Python and what got used for what and what didn't get used for what. And the difference between interpreters and compilers, and Python's an interpreter, so how did it use the C? Because C is compiled and blah, 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 blah. There's all kinds of interesting computer sciencey stuff. We don't want to get all involved in that, all right, because we just want to learn how to program right now so we can start using Python to do some interesting data science stuff. So I'm going to minimize that. I am going to take some libstuff.py and I'm going to put it up in your Sakai resources, all right? All right, so now we're going to get to the nitty-gritty of this particular enterprise, and I am going to do my very own homework assignment. It is similar to the homework assignment I'm going to give you. And what I am going to do for my assignment, and I've done it before, so it's a little bit of cheating, not that much, is I am going to take a file that contains 1,000 random numbers. And I need to examine all of the numbers in that file and see if the number is a palindrome. For people who don't know, palindrome is something that reads the same way forwards as it does backwards. Radar, race car, Adam I am, or something like that. I forget. There are a whole bunch of palindromes out there. I forget the longest one. There was a good 26, 27 letter long palindrome that I knew once, but I don't anymore. So I'm going to go get some numbers, and we're going to read them in. I think I'll go between 0 and, 10,000. Grab some random numbers, and then we'll look at them and see if they're palindromes. So if I get 1, 1, 1, 1, palindrome. Reads the same forwards as it does backwards. 1, 2, 1, palindrome. Same forwards as backwards. 1, 1, 2, 2, not a palindrome. Because 1, 1, 2, 2 is different than 2, 2, 1, 1. Okay? You get what I'm saying. Now, I'm going to time myself. I'm looking down at the clock on my little laptop, and it says 9:29. Oh, wait. It says 9:30. Good. That's nice and even. I don't even have to write that down. I'm just going to remember that, okay? So we started at 9:30, and I don't even have my data yet. So I'm going to stay with you and go get me some data. All right, I'm going to go to Google, and you watch. If you're ever a computer science instructor, you are going to want to go to random.org, because random.org is where we get the numbers. All right, it's actually games and lotteries, random drawings, numbers. You can do a lot of things here. I am going to use this to get some free numbers, integer generator. And I am going to generate 1,000 random integers. They should have a value between 1 and 10,000. And I'm going to format them in 10 columns. Then I'm going to get my numbers. Look at that, random numbers. How awesome. All right, not doing me a lot of good here in my browser, so I'm going to highlight them. All right, and I'm going to say copy, and then I am going to go to Notepad, and I'm going to say paste. Look at that. Look at that. Save as, and I'm going to go to Python for Data Science, Spring 2017, Unit 3, and I'm going to save it, and I'm going to call it rnums.txt. rnums is good enough, yeah? rnums.txt. Beautiful. So now I got data, and I got data in a little file right here. So I'll just minimize that. So I don't need this anymore, so I can Zots that and go back. I was watching my old video. Okay, so I have my data, which is 1,000 random numbers, all right, in 10 different columns. So what's the first thing I'm going to do? Well, I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write myself a program that tells me if something is a palindrome or not. Uh-oh, where'd my tools go? And I am going to put it in a file I'm going to call tools.py. All right? And then I will run it down here so we can see all of that. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to kill that, and then when we run this, a new fresh one will pop up. All right. What's the first thing I want to do to determine if something is a palindrome? I'm going to create a function. So I'm going to type def, and then I'm going to call my function isPal. Okay, that way when I write the code, I could say isPal, and it'll tell me true or false. So it's kind of like I'm asking a question. I will accept an integer. I will call ppal for potential pal, and I am ready to rock and roll. So ppal is a string of a number. So I want to know if that string is a palindrome. How can I do that? Well, the reason I do this is because I can do it very simply in Python, and I can do it with slicing. And watch me work. I'll say if ppal is equal to, and then I'll say ppal, but I'm going to slice. So what am I going to do? Look at that. See that right there? Colon, colon, -1. Start at the beginning, end at the end, but go backwards. So what am I doing? I'm comparing the string to that very same string, but backwards. And that's what a palindrome is. If you're the same thing forwards as you are backwards, then it should be equal, right? So if it's equal, I'm going to return true. Else, and it's a binary condition because you're either palindrome or you're not, I return false. And that's it. All right, I got that problem licked. Now, I am going to set one variable up because I want you to see that too. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to create a variable. So now I want to test. I won't even call it main. I will say test my function. Test my function, please. Test my function. So I'm going to say a equals isPal, and then what am I going to put in there? Race car. Okay, and then I'm going to print a. So if I say a equals isPal race car, that should come back what? It should come back true. So when I print it, it should say true. I will save, I will run, and when I run, look at that, look at that. And it does it nice up and top, like I wanted. Alrighty, Rudy, Fruity, Tooty. There we go. It says true. All right, what if I do, let's do 1122. Like I said before, this should be false. Yeehaw! Now, what if I do 222? Now, what is that? Is that one? Yes, it is. One last one. Radar. All right, I'm looking good. I'm thinking my function is returning true if I give it a palindrome, and false when it gets something that isn't a palindrome. We'll do one more. Let me just throw a silly character in there to mess things up. And it messes it up, so it's false. So I think I'm in good shape. But now I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to comment out these little test things, because I don't want them. I just want that function there. And I'm going to leave that variable Carter equal to 8. If you're a Met fan, you know what I'm doing. And I'm just going to save that. All right? I'm going to save it. I'm going to call tools.py. Later on, I'm going to come back, and we're going to see what I'm going to do with it. So now, I come down here. Yes, tools. I was just there. Thank you. And I created a new shell called checkpals.py. All right? And I call it a driver. I'll explain that in a second. So, I have a file, and it's got 1,000 random numbers in it. I have a file called tools, and it's got a function in it that has a function called isPal, which tells me if something's a palindrome or not. All right. So what's the first thing I want to do now? think the first thing I want to do is I want to get my file IO out of the way. So I'm going to say file IO, and I'm going to say f equals open rnums.txt, and open that baby for reading. I'm going to say data equals f.read, and that is going to read in all the data. And because everybody knows I am a good file citizen, I'm going to close, and then that is going to get all my data. Let's see what I got. Yes, idle. Look at that. Is that my numbers? Look at that right there in the string. All my numbers are red, and I just printed them out, and I am all of a sudden a man who has all of the data from his file in one big long string. Okay, now I'm going to save that. Regular guy, regular girl, sitting at home, eating Cheetos, okay, playing scratch-offs, watching TV. They see 10 columns of numbers, right? But we're programmers. We don't see 10 columns of numbers. What do we see? I'll tell you what we see. Number, tab. It's a tab character. It's a \T. Number, tab, number, tab, number, tab, all the way till we get the end. Then what do we see? \N. It's just a character. It's a special character, though. Gives you a new line. Number, tab, number, tab, number, tab, all the way down the end, \N. Okay? These are characters to us. Okay? We know there's tabs in there. It's column format. We know there's a new line here. It goes down to a new line. So we're going to use that information because right now I have a string, and that string has a whole bunch of column information in it. And I can't really use that. But what I'm going to do, like a good data scientist, is I'm going to clean my data. So what's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to say data equals data dot replace. What do I want to replace? Think about it. What would be a smart thing to do? Eventually, I want to get to a point where all of these numbers are in a list, and each number is an individual item in that list. So to do that, when I start out with a string, I think I'm going to eventually want to use the split command. But split takes one item as a delimiter. So I only want one thing to be separating my numbers. Now, right now, I have tabs everywhere. But that's a problem because I don't have a tab on the end. So if I use tab as the delimiter now, I'll split out all of these. But this one will be 4305, new line, 9199. Okay? Because there's no tab to separate it. So that one will all be messed up. So why don't I try this? Why don't I replace my \N's with \T's? And what will that do? That'll remove all of the new lines. So all we'll have is tabs. Watch. So now when I run it, look at this. See? I can stretch it all the way across the screen because there's no more new lines. There's only tabs. All right? And that's perfect because that's exactly what I want. Because what am I going to do now? I'm going to say data equals data dot split. And what am I going to split by? Tab. So now I'm going to take this string, which has nothing but tabs separating the numbers, and I'm going to do a split by that. Remember, the split method on a string returns a list. So now data is going to be a list. And when I print it, you're going to see, look at that. There's my bracket at the end. There's my bracket at the top. And all of these strings, all of the numbers are separate items. All right? And I can test to make sure it did it properly by making sure it's still 1,000 numbers. And it is. I see 1,000 down there. So I have 1,000 strings, which means I have 1,000 numbers. Woo-hoo-hoo! I am in Fat City. All right. So now I have a list. I have a list with my 1,000 numbers in it. Yeah, there's strings, but we'll figure that out. Actually, we want to use our pal function. That takes a string. So we're in good shape from Jump Street. Now, what do I need to do? I want to use the palindrome function I wrote. So should I just, go get a copy of it and copy it in here? Well, I could do that, to be honest with you. But it's not very efficient, especially not if it's big. Okay? What I want to do is I know I have this file over here called tools. So I want to use it. How am I going to do that? What I'm going to do, and you usually do it at the beginning of your code, is I'm going to import it. It's a library, just like anything else. It's a custom library because I made it, but it's just like loading statistics out of the lib library. That's why I show it to you, because our code is just like anybody else's code. It could be used as a library too. All right, so I'm going to say import tools, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to say examine numbers to see if pals. And then what do I need to do? I'm going to say for I in data. Don't need to play around with range. I'm iterating through a list. I'm going to say if tools dot is pal of I, which is a string, equals true. Then what do I want to do with it if I find it? I guess for right now, I'll just print it. Print I. And I guess we can keep a counter. And I guess we can keep an accumulator. I'm going to want to make sure I make that an integer so I can keep it. I'm also smarty, so I'm going to give myself these variables up here so I don't ask Python to do something it's never seen before. And look at that. I think we're in good shape. Okay, let's go find out. All right, let's see. 1,000. Okay, well, you know what? That's going to mess things up because 1,000 is not a palindrome. And I saw that and I'm like, oh, here we go. Something went wrong. Here we go. 404, 171, 340. Look at this. They're palindromes. 88, 282, 8448, 766. We've got a whole bunch of palindromes. Okay? And then down here, I can say print there are, comma, C, comma, palindromes. Done. Print their sum was a. How did that happen? Because I forgot my quote over here. There we go. All right. There are 27 palindromes. Their sum was 64,172. Ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing up my sleeves. There is nothing in my hands. The time on my clock reads 9:44. 14 minutes. Started at 9:30 and didn't even have our data. We had to go get our data. And what we did was we wrote a program that examined 1,000 random numbers. Okay? We wrote a custom library where we kept our own function. Then we came over here. We did file I/O and grabbed our data. We cleaned our data so that we could use it and put it in a list. And then we iterated through our list using the function in our library to see if these numbers were palindromes. As we did so, we counted them and we summed them up. And then we printed our results at the end of the process. 15 minutes, my friends. That's all it took. Now, you may or may not have seen it because I'm going to put it up tomorrow probably at the same time in this video. When you see your homework assignment, you are going to realize it is not that much different. It is not much different at all than what you're going to get for homework. Yeah, you're going to have to create Harshad and Siete in here, okay? And then when you come out here, when you do the Siete, I'm going to want you to write an output file, so there's a little bit extra file I/O. But after that, it's not much different, okay? It's not much different at all. See that Carter right there? The reason I did that was because I wanted to show you a constant variable. Tools.Carter. Okay, so I run it. Yes, I know. Well, syntax. Print tools.car. Oh, there's a 1 in there. How did that happen? See down there that 8? Look here in this file. You see an 8 anywhere? You see Carter defined anywhere? No. We defined it here. Okay. Sometimes we define constants in our libraries, and I just wanted to show you that you have a function here, but you can also just set up a variable and then go and use it in your program. So I wanted you to see that. Okay. So that's it. That's basically it. We took our numbers, we read them in, we cleaned them up, then we ran through an iterative loop using the function from our library, our custom library, and figured out how many palindromes and what their sum was. Easy. Okay? Now, we're going to do something a little bit more Pythonic here, I think. Because now you're getting more experience. See? The counter and the accumulator, get rid of it. See that? Get rid of it. You don't need it. What I'm going to do is, what am I going to do? I'm going to go create a list called pal list. If that is true, I'm going to say pal list dot append and put I in it. So that will append to that. So at the end, I have a list. What do I want to do? All right. For I in pal list, let's see, int I for I in pal list. This, my friends, is called a list comprehension. Do not let it freak you out. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm saying go in I for I in pal list, and what I'm going to do is create a new list called int list, because it's between brackets. And this is what's called a list comprehension. We're just going to run a quick little loop inside of those brackets. Okay. The reason I do that is because I want to use sum, and I cannot sum strings, but I can sum an int list because it's integers. And then here I will just do a len on int list. Okay. So what am I doing? I created a thing called pal list. And then I ran through, and actually, you know what? I didn't have to do this. I'm going to leave it this way, but I could have casted it in here and just added it properly to the list, and then we would have had integers when we came out. But this is good because you got to see a list comprehension really quick. This is the way Python programmers would really quick just take a list of strings and make it integers. Boom, 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 boom. All right. So now when I run this, invalid syntax, I won't have it. Why does that 1 keep showing up there? Somehow I'm hitting it. You can see it's the same thing. Okay, it's only a different way of doing it. I don't do it with a counter and a sum because I do it here. The length of a list is how many things are in the list, and then I can sum it up because it's an iterable. Okay, so it takes a little bit of the pain away. You just set up a blank file, a blank list. You append everything to the list, and then you play around with the list. All right, that's more Pythonic. That's what Python programmers do. Here, I guess this is good. Your first list comprehension. You can see me real quick use a loop, blah, 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 just inside the brackets. Okay, you don't have to use the for loop out here in a big for structure. You can use it to loop through things and change them inside of a list to create new lists. All right, little complicated. You're never going to see it on a test, but if you want, go Google list comprehensions and you can learn how to do some of them. Most of the time in Python, and a lot of people will do it in the interactive window, but a lot of people do it in programs, you will whip up a list comprehension and you'll be able to do 2 or 3 different things to your data and winnow it down, blah, 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 and get exactly the results you want. Okay, I don't want to go far afield and I don't want to get too complicated, and I don't even know if you see that in the books, but that's basically what that is. Okay, my friends, that is it. Okay, that's the sync went on of what we were going for in this particular unit. Think about it. We're using functions. We're doing file I/O. We're using our own custom libraries. Okay, you learned about the standard library. I mean, that's it. That's the bottom line. That's the good thing. All right, I don't want to run too long on this video. I can see it's going long. So, well, first of all, see all this code up here? This is the part of the show where I usually say I'm going to put it up on the web for you, right? Guess what? I'm not. Because it's your homework. All right? Do your own homework. You can watch this video as many times as you want to get the gist of it and see what's going on. Okay? But I'm not going to put this up there because I want you to type in and do your homework and do it right. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of that. I am going to put the other one up. I will. What happened? I must have zotzed it out. The one with the library stuff with math and with statistics and stuff like that. I'll put that one up. All right. Announcements. Basically, things are going along pretty much according to plan. This weekend, you're getting this video. You're going to get your assignments. So you're going to be in pretty good shape. It is a long unit, so it's not going to end until March 9th, but be careful because that will creep up on you. I want you to engage with all the resources and then start looking at your homework, and then you can get going on the Harshad/Siete functions, and then get them in a custom library, and then you're going to use them to examine 5,000 random numbers. And you'll see that when you look at your homework assignment, all right? Word to the wise. The unit ends March 9th. March 12th is the midterm is due, all right? Also, announcement. Remember, this coming Tuesday, we have class. So there's going to be a class that we can sit and talk about. Class is going to be fun because we're actually going to talk about some behind the scenes with your Unit 2 assignments. Because your Unit 2 assignments were actually 2 famous problems in computer science. CalPi was really a program called FizzBuzz. And we're going to talk about FizzBuzz and how people used to give it as an interview question. And the other one was called the rainfall problem. And it's very famous in computer science education circles. And we're going to discuss why. And we're going to do some other stuff when we have class on Tuesday. So don't forget, Tuesday's class, Tuesday night at 4:30. And you know me, I'll send out a bazillion announcements. So that'll be fun. Do not forget that your midterm assignment is due March 12th. Unit 3 is going to end March 9th. Also, we're going to start setting up groups because your final project for this course is a group project. It's got a couple of different components to it. You're going to see. You're going to have to do a proposal. Then you're going to have to do a design document. Then you're going to have to do the actual coding and the actual work as well as a demonstration. But they're all spread out through the end of the thing. I usually don't give it out until the midterm is done because I want you working on the midterm. But I may release it a couple of days beforehand. So you're going to have to promise me that you concentrate on the midterm and do a good job on that before you start looking at the final project. But like I said, it's a good thing in this particular go-round this spring that we're going to have the second class and we're all going to be together in the classroom around the same time when we're going to set up groups. Because I'm thinking I could just talk to everybody and we'll probably set up groups and we'll be all done by the end of Tuesday. So I'm not going to get crazy announcement-wise on it, all right? Other than that, everyone's doing great. This weekend, Hans and I are going to do the majority of the grading for Unit 2, so hopefully I'm going to get your grades out very soon. And I think everyone's doing great, and I think so far this has been a really good class. A lot of people are sending me questions and sending me comments and doing that, and they're all very thoughtful, and they're all very good questions. There's no kookiness going on. So I'm really happy. I think things are going along great, all right? Don't forget to do your forum post. Remember, 3 days before the end of the unit, so I'm going to want it in there March 5th, March 6th. Okay? So make sure you get those posts in there for the forum. It's the kookier talk's a good talk. The apple pie stuff in the beginning is very interesting, and it just, continues to be interesting as it goes along. All right, I'm going to get out of here. All right, you have a good weekend. You keep chugging along. You keep reading the book. You keep doing the slides. You keep programming with Python, and everything's going to be good. All right? All right, then you be good, and I'll talk to you later.